Hi, listeners. Our guest today is Egette Indelele with Safe Haven Space. She's been on before. You've heard her story. She's amazing. She's a refugee. She came here, as you'll hear on the show, several years ago, and she cares about the mental well-being of immigrants and refugees, and that is what her show is all about. So I'm excited to have you hear her talk again about why she wanted to do a podcast and how important it is to make sure that this happens and that people have a space to share their stories. So please give a warm welcome to Egette with Safe Haven Space Podcast.
I wanna try and take in all the highs, embrace them for more than a moment's time. I want you, please don't move when I push you away. I know I contradict myself some days, but will you ride the lows with me?
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I am your host, Kristen Sunanta Walker. Our goal is to help discussions about mental health be a regular part of your daily life, no different than discussions about physical health. Mental illness can be a topic of discussion under the umbrella of mental health, along with so many other topics. This show is the original program on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. Our network of shows are played in over 180 countries and cover more topics under that umbrella than you can possibly imagine. We were talking about mental health long before it became cool and popular to talk about, and thank goodness it has become so popular. We have incredible guests, advocates, patients, experts, people. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy our intro music, a song named Lows, written by Aubrey Toon. You can find her music at www.aubreytoone.com.
That night when I started praying, I cried. Will you ride the lows with me? Will you ride the lows with me? When I'm down, my vision gets blue.
Hi, Egette. Thank you so much for having me on your first podcast episode of your brand new podcast.
Yes, thank you, Kristen. Thank you so much for being able to, come in and ask me questions.
Absolutely. And, just so your listeners have an idea, we met a while, not too long ago, but in around towards the end of 2020. And and you were on my podcast, Mental Health News Radio, and got to find out the amazing work that you're doing. And then you came to me early 2021 and said, I'm going to take you up on your offer to give us a complimentary place on the network to host my podcast. And I thought it was great because I was watching what was going on, obviously, in our United States politics, which I won't get into political stuff. This is the only thing I'll say. But I was watching what was going on, and there was a lot of push towards, hey, you need to volunteer on Martin Luther King Day, which was yesterday, and you need to, you can do it even without having to physically be there. There's a lot that you can do remotely, and I think you'll agree with this. The way that we kind of operate is as people who volunteer and create nonprofits and do the work that we do, a driver can be, what else can I do? There's got to be more. And at least that's how I tend to work. But it was really great to go, well, wait a minute. We just got your podcast set up and ready for you to go on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That was my volunteer activity. So I'm good for the day. I can feel like I did contribute. I didn't just sit around and not do anything. Yes, I feel great instead of sitting there feeling sorry for myself going, I'm not doing enough. Which we tend to do. And obviously the day is important for reasons why we don't even need to go into because everybody knows them. But I think the spirit of it is just celebrating that, the great work that you're doing out in the world and why it's so important. So can we launch right into why the heck did you want to take the great work that you do and put it into a podcast?
Yes, of course. Thank you for your question. So I honestly thought it would be a great idea for the world to hear about refugees and immigrant stories. So for some of our listeners that don't know, we're called Safe Haven Space. We work with refugee and immigrants who are coming into the United States and just creating a safe haven, a global community that is a safe haven. And we provide mental health services and programs for that population. But we also wanted to hear the stories of refugees and immigrants. So we thought, why not learn from, what their stories are or what they go through, so we can amplify their voices and just learn the ways that we can, better work with them and better create a global community. So that's why we're here today.
I love it. And you are also just like your listeners. And we got to have you on my show to talk about your experience as a refugee and immigrant, and how amazing to do that during this time, to start this nonprofit and then also launch a podcast, and in a country that actually was, despite anything that's gone on or not gone on, this country was founded on, it was created by immigrants and refugees.
Yeah.
So we should be knowing what everybody's stories are. So I love it that you are highlighting this. You're the first podcast on the network to dedicate the time to doing this. Just for your listeners to know, we've got 90 different shows covering all different facets of mental health. And this is the first one that is 100% focused on, refugees and immigrants. So I'm really excited about that.
I'm excited.
I know the stories that you're going to hear from people and be able to share are just amazing. Yeah. So tell us about how old were you, and what prompted you to want to turn this into a nonprofit? Because, you could have just been a volunteer for somewhere else, but there's something different when you create something. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I came to the United States, I was 8 years old. And before that, I was living in a refugee camp till I was around 7, close to 8. So my family had escaped from the Rwanda and genocide. So my family were living in refugee camps for over 30 years. And, through many of that, my family experienced many traumatic events, and that got handed over through behavior and everything. But it wasn't till high school that I started experiencing the behavior and experiencing the trauma that I had gone through. And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand what was going on to me mentally, physically, emotionally, until I got into college, actually. In high school, I had always thought that, we come to the United States and we didn't talk about what we've been through. We didn't talk about how we should be helped or what we needed to succeed mentally, physically, emotionally. Yes, we were provided schooling, housing, but that part of our mental well-being wasn't included, or just didn't seem like a priority. And I just wanted to create something that can be a space and a community for refugees and immigrants to come together and hear one another's stories, but also learn about how they can heal from everything that they've been through, the traumatic experiences and everything they've seen. So that is why I wanted to create Safe Haven Space. And we actually started through Mason entrepreneurship. It was like a summer internship where we just brainstormed ideas. It was like an 8 weeks summer internship. And we did a lot of interviews. We presented our ideas, our mission, and how it was going to look like. But after maybe a couple months, we actually, my team and I, actually thought that it would be a great idea to go ahead and start working on the paperwork, the legal information on the side. And we're here today.
I love it. And tell us a little bit about the different programs that you have created.
Yes. So right now we have, sorry, let me just pull it up. There's so many.
I have to do that too. When people say, tell us about your podcasters, I'm like, let me pull it up because there's so many. I don't want to, you don't want to miss anything. And you're right. It gets to be kind of overwhelming. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. So our first program is mental health education. So for this program, we want to bring in therapists who are able to educate the population or that population on what mental health is, how it looks like, and what can also cause the mental illnesses, just so they have a clear understanding of, why we're doing this and how they can move themselves from like where they are to where they want to be. And we'll also we have a therapy program where therapists will come and provide services to the individuals who are going to be in these programs. So it's either going to be a group therapy or individual therapy, and this is strictly what the individual wants. If they want to do group therapy, they can. If they want to do individual, they can. If they don't, that's fine too. And we'll also have like a mentorship program where we have refugees who have gone through things like this to mentor them and just be able to like let them know that, just because you come from this area or just because you've gone through this particular trauma doesn't mean that, you can't be more than what more of a refugee. Like you can't, you're not identified as a refugee, that there's more things that you can do. Right. And we also will be doing career readiness program, journalism, storytelling, and so many more.
I know. I love the theatrical interventions too, because I know how much acting, music, anything, of that vein that can actually be such a catalyst to actually someone that says, well, I don't need or nor do I want therapy, but then maybe they'll get involved in some kind of theatrical or storytelling or something like that pulls you out of yourself, and acting that out then makes you go, oh yes, maybe I do want to go to therapy.
Yes.
Especially if you're acting out someone else's story or you're, telling and the telling of your own story even. I wonder how much patience or lack thereof at different times that you've experienced do you feel like you have, maybe in comparison to people that were, born and raised here, where someone's acting out, they're being quite entitled or they're being self-centered or whatever, and they aren't really they're reacting to someone else's behavior without knowing what the underlying story is. Like they're a refugee, they have all this trauma. And do you take a pause, or how difficult has it been at different times for you to take a pause when you see someone acting out, because you realize there's probably a lot more going on there than what this looks like on the surface?
Yes, definitely. Like it's definitely really hard to understand where your behavior is coming from, especially if you don't have much education on, what the behavior means and how did you get to that place. But because I'm also in therapy, I have come to learn about, the reasons why I'm acting the way I'm acting, the reason why I'm thinking these negative thoughts, the reason why I'm putting myself down. And I think that's definitely one key point of how to better work on ourselves is finding the root cause of, what happened, what led to this point, what led to me acting like this. And I really hope that that's something that we can bring into safe haven space, because I know it's difficult to even for me too, it's difficult to even pause because it's like it takes so much time. It's like you're already in acting the way you're acting and you don't have that mental capacity to even think about the reason why you're acting the way you're acting. And it's more of being self-aware and just being educated about, who you are and what your story tells about you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think too, we have to expand the definition of education because sometimes people see that word and they think, oh, it's just going to school and reading and writing and maybe learning, the language of the land or whatever it is. It's about more schoolwork and studies. And it's not just about that. It's also education also means an education into yourself, what you've been through, why you behave the way you behave. Where you can go from here if you learn these things, like you said, the self-awareness. I mean, that's education too. It's, that's such a bigger word than what we tend to, put on it. And, that's why I love that you have things like, mental health education, well-being education, because there are commonalities. I mean, someone who, is not a refugee can have so many similar experiences because we're all human beings with someone who is a refugee, finding that common place with your humanity. And then we can dig deeper from there.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the journalism piece. What does that mean for you in terms of a program that it is?
So for the journaling program, so what we want to do is provide the people that we're working with journals and how to journal. I think it's really important to let everyone know how to journal. Yes, we can write our feelings down, but it's what are we going to do with those feelings that are written down? Like how do we even go back to them? So we want to provide them with journaling, and every sessions that we have or every webinar series that we have, they're going to be provided with a sort of a homework to understand themselves and the story and their own story, and how they can relate to the stories that they've been through and what they want to, or where they want to see themselves in the future. So for me, I journal a lot, whether it's my emotions or how sad or happy I am, or if it's just a negative thought that comes onto in my mind, I write it down or I'm going to forget. And in the moment, I think about, okay, once I have a moment where I'm having a breakdown and I can't function correctly mentally. So I make sure I find something, whether it's on my phone or the journal I have, I write it down so I can come back to it and read it and see where I was in that moment and how I can better help myself to not have those kind of moments.
Right.
So that's what we want to do with the journaling program. And I know a lot of us don't use journals, but it's really important to have something that we can go back to, something that we can refer to if, something happens or we want to assure ourselves and see what's going on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because journaling is not 3-second sound bites on social media. That is not
No.
a healthy way to journal.
Yeah.
Not enough depth and way too much about what's out there instead of what's in here. So, so yeah, very important to be like, look, if you need to type your journal, that's great. Put it in an actual, document of some kind, not on whatever your, apps, your favorite apps are, or get out a pencil or a pen and paper and write it in a journal. Either way, it's very different than, what we tend to get caught up in terms of social media outlets.
Yes. Yeah.
So my last question for you is around your family and what they think about what it is that you're doing, and if you think that they'll listen to your podcast.
Yes. So my mom is actually excited to learn more about, safe haven space in general, because she's also someone. Sorry, let me rephrase that. She's open-minded. She's open to learn, but I think she's going to be excited hearing about other stories. But I hope that she does enjoy it. And because it's going to be in English, I think it's going to be difficult for her to listen. But it's also going to be a way of teaching her English.
Right.
Yeah, but my siblings are excited. They know about Safe Haven Space and what I'm doing. So that's also, I wanted that to also be an educational aspect of it, because, I'm here and they're there. So I don't have much time of sitting down with them and teaching them every day about, what mental health is. Although we do have conversations and everything, but I think this definitely is going to be helpful in trying to understand, what it is, what everyone has gone through. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Why has storytelling from, the early days where it was just symbols and pictures drawn on cave walls to sitting around a campfire of some kind or another, or just a fire and talking, to now it's the virtual world where, we do this often on things like a podcast. It's amazing how healing that is. And sometimes we can't, because of our own walls and our own fears and our own trauma, it's hard to get out of yourself that way. But boy, when you hear someone else talk about it and you feel validated and you feel hopeful and you feel moved by that experience, how quickly those walls tend to crumble right on down. So
Yeah.
my hat's off to you for wanting to do this. It's a monumental task. You've got the shoulders to carry it so well. And I'm excited for you. I'm really excited for you. Can you share with
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Can you share with all of your listeners how they would get in touch with you after hearing a show, that they want to volunteer or they want some of your services? Where would they go to find out that information?
Yes. So we do have many social media platforms. So we also have a website. You can find the website at safehavenspace.com, and our Instagram is safehaven_VA. We're also on LinkedIn as Safe Haven Space, and as well as Facebook. You can also just type in Safe Haven Space and we'll pop up. Our colors are really bright orange, so you won't miss it.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I have to say to your listeners, we have a full-time editor that edits all of our shows, and I told him that we were going to be doing this today and that your podcast was coming on the network, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I remember editing that show that you did with her. She's amazing.
Oh.
He goes, and I especially love her Instagram, because let me tell you what a bright light it is to go on social media and have something like what you post be out there, especially someone your age. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. And I'm excited too. What's the name of your podcast going to be?
Just Safe Haven Space.
Love it. Love it. And it's on Mental Health News Radio Network. A lot of amazing people there, now including you. And so I'm honored to help you hold space for that and for everyone that's going to be listening.
Yeah, thank you. I'm super excited to be under your network, and I'm really excited to see how far we'll go. We will go, and I just want to make sure that, you know, that these stories that will be on here will be touch many lives. So thank you so much for welcoming us.
Absolutely. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to her first episode. Stay tuned for more.
Yes.
Hi, listeners. I'll make it quick. These are some really cool places that give discounts and other cool things for listeners of Mental Health News Radio Network. If you want to get amazing help with healing from narcissistic abuse, go to healfromanarcissist.com. If you want CBD products that are the best of the best, I use them myself, go to proze.com and use the code mentalhealth20, mentalhealth20. If you want to get daily perk ups that help retrain your brain to think more positively, go to perkupdaily.com. And also, just because this one's fun, snarkycandles.com. I guarantee you'll love them. Snarky with a Y, SNARKY candles.com. And don't forget, if you want to hear all the shows on the network about first responders, you can go to firstresponder.mentalhealthnetwork.com, and all of our shows that focus on narcissistic abuse, narcissisticabusehealingnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and back to the show.
But will you ride the low, low, lows with me? Will you ride the low, low, lows with me?
One thing you can always count on at Mental Health News Radio Network and my show is that there will always be dogs around. Why? They are natural healers, excellent for your mental health. The original therapy dog Miles has something to say in just a moment. For now, please check out all of our amazing shows at mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com and all your favorite podcast apps. Until next time, I'm Kristen Sananta Walker, and thank you for listening.
And I can ride the low, low, lows with me. I can ride the low, low, lows with me. Till my vision clears up perfectly. I can ride the low, low, lows with me.
Good boy.